Oh,
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And
hey.
So the meeting is being recorded, Sultan.
Thank you. Yeah, I see the red dots.
Mhm. Is your semester still ongoing, Zoltan, in Holland?
It's the semester is until mid-January, February, I think. So we just have a little break in between.
I remember that. I remember that.
You know how many people we expect, Gregor?
I do not. I mean, we had a varying attendance,
Mhm.
in the 30s. So I'm wondering if we should wait a few more minutes.
Yeah, we should.
It is, after all, very early here.
Mhm.
And I see people are still joining.
Yeah.
Yeah, today is for us last day. Grading will happen, hundreds and hundreds of exams and grade submission, final grade submission. So then, as of tomorrow, the semester's over.
That's nice.
Yeah, we went to a new design of 14 weeks instead of 15, with a 1 day break in between. And uh, it just means you have to cram more into 14 weeks, but it is appreciated.
But are you finishing earlier, or do you just take a week off?
It's a week off, and we're finishing earlier. Normally, we would have
Oh,
stopped in a week from now, like just before Christmas.
yeah.
And
Oh.
yeah, it's interesting how different the number of weeks are.
Yeah, it makes a difference. We had a similar thing here actually a couple of years ago, but it was because I think the second semester was always shorter than the first, so they tried to balance it out that way.
Hmm.
They added this fall break. I think like a new thing last year, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that they were equally long, but I just um well, you could argue the students are getting less money for their less value for their money. Um, but I hope that's not the case.
You could argue that you're getting more efficient too.
Well, I mean, my friend at Johns Hopkins, Jan Dargona, he
Mhm.
teaches 12 weeks, not
Mhm.
not anywhere close to 15.
Okay.
Yeah. Private schools are a little shorter always, or
Are they?
often. Yeah. Yeah.
And my daughter was at Oxford, and they had 8 weeks of instruction per semester. 8 weeks.
Yeah, we have 8 weeks quarters. And then, so it's like, yeah, 8 weeks, 2 weeks breaks, 8 weeks, 2 weeks breaks.
And how many of those 8 weeks?
Or,
4. Okay. Oh, yeah.
so it's stretched out over a longer period of time. It's a short summer.
So shorter summer. Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, good.
I remember when I was in Eindhoven, it was by the first week you were already 3 weeks behind on everything.
Exactly.
How come, Hussein?
Because it's so quick.
It's so quick. Interesting how different educational models exist.
It just
right?
starts and it just goes so quickly. You have no idea what's going on.
Good. Well, I see Alfonso's note taker has joined, and that's a good thing. And see, very good. Okay, so it's now 7:06. Good morning to everyone who are interested in this Annex 96 in the subtask B2, B3, and specifically B3 here today is about the common exercise. And we have been working hard to have something to show today. And the people who actually have been working hard will speak in a second, but we are in the position to launch our first Annex 96 common exercise today. And I would be grateful if maybe we could have the team who spent the time on the preparation maybe say a few words. We have Ava who spent a lot of time, Sabrina and Catherine. Would either of you be willing to say a few words about what you've done over the last month in order to get ready for today?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. Do you want me to show the whole repo or I can show?
Maybe start in your words what you try to do, right?
Okay. Because I don't know if people know about this common exercise. What is the goal? And
likely most of them do. Likely not everyone, right? That's the nature of this. So maybe I say that much.
Yeah.
So the goal of the common exercise is for the participants to take a portfolio of 25 single-family residences and use them as a playground to explore a range of energy flexibility strategies. And the energy flexibility strategies that we'd like to explore would be in response to an aggregator who's asking that group of buildings to adjust the overall portfolio level demand profile in a particular way. And so the question is, can the buildings work together to achieve a common goal? And the common goal is not about responding to a time of use electricity rate or real-time pricing. So this is not your common economic model predictive control problem or arbitrage problem where you buy low and sell high, basically by using storage elements to minimize your own operating cost, either focused on yourself or on the community aspect of that. But it's actually to look at the nature and shape of the demand profile. And we have placed have placed this portfolio of 25 single-family homes in 2 locations in the United States. One is hot, that's Texas. And if you wonder if it's hot, ask Zoltan. Is it hot? Yes, it is. Verbal.
Ask Kate too. Yeah, it's hot.
Okay. And a cold climate, which is Vermont, one in the summer, one in the winter. So we have thereby a focus on a summer cooling and a winter heating, with its unique differences in winter heating typically having, two critical periods, morning and evening periods, and cooling tends to be focused in the early afternoon to evening in those locations. So the simulation platform that the teams are to use is CityLearn, and CityLearn has been prepared, and Ava is going to talk about this in a second. The idea is to launch this common exercise for people to read the notebook, understand a little bit more of the common exercise, and then to design the control algorithms per building such that this common goal is maximally achieved. Okay, and maybe as a last comment, we're starting this activity with the assumption that what the aggregator would like is every day to have a maximally flat load profile. And that means that the portfolio of buildings is supposed together consume on average what they would be consuming normally by the end of the day. So there's no net change in energy consumption that we assume. It's not like we're saying you have to shed loads for the sake of conservation. It's not we're starving our buildings, but we're saying that what you're expected to consume in electricity over the course of the day, you now have to do this in a continuous fashion. And so that means that you have to consume more at night and less during the day, most likely, to achieve that goal. And I think that's enough, maybe, Ava, for you to start. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Gregor, for a very nice introduction of the common exercise. So maybe I can share my screen for everyone.
Yeah, please.
Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so first I have to mention, like Gregor already mentioned, this is the starting point for us. It's a very soft start for the whole group. We worked very hard with Sabrina, Catherine, and Elise and me to put together an environment that everyone can start with this common exercise. So first, I want to show you the repository that we put together specifically for this common exercise, because we wanted to have that district load target that Gregor was explaining within the environment. We were supposed to have a different environment, so we don't touch anything within the real main CityLearn already. So we start with this repository that everything has been designed for this common exercise. And if you look into the README, you can find everything about this common exercise that Gregor was explaining. What are the objectives? What is the instruction? What do we want as a baseline? What climates are there? Texas, we call this TX. I will show that within the notebook. Vermont, we'll call it VT for heating dominant environment. Portfolios are 25 single buildings. Degree of freedom means like which controller action we can change within the environment. And then training period for Vermont would be January and August, and for the for the Vermont would be January, and test would be February, and then for the Texas would be August training, and test September. And then a tutorial to how to run the whole things in one common environment is in this tutorial specifically for this common exercise. I will show you where to find it. If you look into the notebooks, you can find this common exercise quick start notebook. And then if you open that notebook, you can see that we start very quickly with cloning the GitHub because we need this GitHub for this exercise. And the surprising thing that you may notice is you don't need to install CityLearn. And please do not do that, because if you install CityLearn, you don't get that load target district that we are going to show you. So you're not going to basically be able to run anything. So the most important step is do not pip install CityLearn. Basically start with cloning this GitHub that has been specifically designed for this within the CityLearn environment. Install a requirement for this repository, which has the CityLearn version that is working with this district goal. And the data set I already mentioned that we call Texas, we call this TX, and Vermont, we call this VT. The climate environment, each of these data sets folders have this schema, 25 buildings, which includes 25 buildings and pre-computed district reference code that I will show you how to reach. If you run this code, you get to the repository, to the folders that contain these data sets. So then you can basically change the VT. If you let it be VT, your climate would be like Vermont's like the heating climate. So you would get the data set for Annex 96 CEBT, which I can show you here, but you don't need to go there. If you run this code, you will get the data set. We have these two data sets specifically designed for this purpose. So if you change this VT to TX, that would be this one. And that would be this one, sorry. And if you change it to VT, that would be this one. And within these folders, we have the district target CVs. You do not need to, I'm just showing you. If you run this code, you will get where this is actually sitting within the environment, and it will be predefined as a variable for you. Data sets directory, schema path, specific for each climate. So you do not need to do anything. And for each data set, as Gregor already mentioned, we designed this district target load that which building needs to follow or at least look at, which is basically the average energy consumption of the whole day for all the buildings. And for example, this
yeah. Do you want to linger there just a second?
Yes,
so
of
that,
course.
yeah, I think thank you so far, Eva, for the explanations. I think you all appreciate that there's a significant amount of daily variations for the aggregate portfolio demand, right? You can see somewhere between 20 and it seems to me 70, 75 kilowatts. So, a 1:4, 1:3.5 ratio between the minimum and the maximum. So I think you will appreciate that the buildings will have to work very hard to change their ways to abide by what they're expected to do. So it'll be very interesting to see how much of that is possible. And Sabrina already looked behind the curtain and tried to answer that question, but we may or may not want to discuss what she found so far. But I hope you appreciate it's a good challenge, right? It's an exercise, but it's also a challenge for the controllers to achieve that.
That's exactly. Those data set has been specifically designed for this purpose, to have the variability that would be more challenging for the district to follow this basically flat line.
Do you know whether that was of Vermont or Texas?
I think this one is Texas. Vermont has a higher load. This is just to give an example as what is these district targets that we generated. We already generated them within the data set. They can access whichever climate they want. They can just choose the district target they want. And here I'm just showing how, okay, I lost my, sorry, to go back to the notebook. Okay, yeah, here we just wanted to show how it looks like within each data set. For example, this one is for Texas. The district load looks something like this. And then to get access to those district target, they just need to run this code and they will get access to this district target with variable district target data frame or district target value, whatever they want to use for their controller. And this is the whole setup for those data set, and they can start from here. But we just wanted to show how to run a very basic environment. It is in no way a baseline. We just run a quick test to see if the data sets are working and everything is fine. So everyone that wants to run their controller, they just need to run the environment. They can see what actions are available, the storage, the devices that are available, what are the observation of the environment for each building, and then if how they can basically have a very basic rule-based controller running for them. So this is a toy controller. This is not at all a real rule-based controller. So do not use this controller, but you can build your own rule-based controller using the serial learn agent base to run whatever rule you want. This is a very basic one based on, okay, full charge from 9 to 12 and then discharge from 4 to 7, for example. And we just wanted to show how they can use their battery within the actions, because the common exercise wants to see two different scenario, which one is without a battery, one with battery. Am I right, Gregor? As far as I remember, this was the case.
The baseline is without battery control.
Okay, yeah, true. So this one is just to show how to
the objective of the common exercise is to control a battery and control the heat pump.
True. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Here is just to show how to use the batteries.
Yep.
So
they can
to underscore what Zoltan just mentioned, I think it is important maybe early on to recognize, and I failed to say that, how do these buildings respond to the call to achieve this flat load profile? And they have basically, in this scenario, 2 degrees of freedom. And the degrees of freedom are to change the operation of a heat pump that's required or that's installed in the home to maintain indoor environmental comfort conditions. And so there is this element of utilizing the thermal mass of the building to preheat the building, to pre-cool the building, and shift the actual operation of the heat pump out of times you don't want it in and into times you do. And similarly, you have a battery. So there's this battery electric storage system that you can charge and discharge, and you have the thermal mass as a equivalent thermal battery activated through the operation of a heat pump. Those are the 2 degrees of freedom that in this exercise we provided for.
Sure. So this is basically to show how someone can build their controller, the baseline controller with the base agent within the serial learn environment. And then they can store their action and also their observation and save their district load based on their controller. And they can also print a plot to see the difference. This is a toy battery RBC, so the result is not correct. It's just here to help everyone to plot their result of their own controller that they can write here and then just save the results here and plot the results to see how well their controller is working. So I just want to mention this here. We just started to work on the notebook. So this is very, very soft to start for the notebook. So we appreciate your feedback whenever and whoever can start early. Of course, analysts would start very early and help us to figure out this early on if everything is working for everyone, because right now everything working on our working spaces, but we want to make sure that this is working for everyone. And the last stage, of course, is evaluating KPIs that is already within the CityLearn. And of course, everyone can have their own KPIs and can have their own cost functions, but we want to just show them how to use the environment and how to use the KPIs to compare different controller that they are going to probably design an experiment. So that's it, just the whole environment ready for everyone to start experimenting with those two data sets and the schemas and the district load and a basic controller that they can write themselves and then see the results and compare the results.
Excellent.
That's it from our side for now.
Thank you.
Of
Thank you.
course, you are going to working on this after the feedbacks because I believe the kickoff would be in January, right?
Yeah, I was going to, Gregor, can I
Yeah,
say
yeah.
one thing on the
Oh,
timeline?
please.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Let me share my screen quickly. Share window. There we go. Just very briefly, I assume you can see this. So the two things. So one of it is we did want to launch today, just because it's before the break and we can get started. So we're not lolling over the holiday, and because we're basically there, but we're doing some fine tuning as Eva and Catherine and Sabrina and the others are doing. So the goal is that you get all what is there now is more than I expected, to be honest. So kudos to the team. The data sets are ready, the script is ready, or the starting script is ready, the problem is set. And so I think what remains is a little bit that everybody gets their hands dirty and we can fine tune sort of like the final stage of what is needed. Maybe something is not clear in the instructions, maybe something not clear with the data set, maybe there is a bug somewhere that we just didn't cut. As all of you working with software know, this will happen. That's very sure. And so the idea is we give everything out now. We'll send an email to everybody who couldn't join. We're recording the video. We set up a Slack environment. The link is there. We'll also email that around. That's just for rapid feedback so we don't slow down with the emails. So we have quick feedbacks on that. And that can be also used to discuss solutions, or you can talk with other people that work on the same problem. But mainly, and then also throughout the whole thing, right? And so that this sort of like warm-up phase would happen for a month, mid-January. Gregor, we probably have a meeting there planned. I couldn't see one in my calendar, but maybe we use that as like a more hard sort of like kickoff where we say, okay, now it's really done. All the data sets are freezed. We're happy with the environment. We're happy with instructions. And so now is go time. And then we have 2-3 months until the meeting in Italy, which is in late April, to produce results. So that's sort of like the overall
I agree.
timeline.
I think that's a very effective timeline in allowing us the soft start today, and cordial thanks to Sabrina, Eva, Catherine, and Annalise for working so hard to put this forward. I think everyone will have time over the break. Hopefully, you can only eat so many cookies, and you ask yourself, what do I do now? The weather's bad. And then you can, work on this, give us feedback, make it better. And then I foresee the first 3 months of the new year to come together and like compare notes. Is it working? Maybe, ask for help. Those are the opportunities that we have. And then we're all very excited about having an exciting meeting in Torino with the presentation of the submissions, and so we feel this will be a good reason or good mode for us as a team to come together and share our results. And so I'm personally extremely happy to have come this far from the first idea of this common exercise to having something that we can soft launch today. So yeah, I'm very happy. I wonder, on the last topic of KPIs, Ava, you mentioned those. I just maybe also I shared with you, I believe, the Word document that describes the common exercise. I wonder if there's value in having that as a downloadable PDF on the GitHub repo, or is it already
Actually,
there?
we have it. Yeah. I will
It's there. Okay,
share.
great. Perfect.
Yeah, I
I
will
just
share
didn't see it in
the
this.
KPIs if you want to elaborate a little bit for everyone.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I think Eva, what also I wanted to mention, sorry, Gregor, but because there are tons of KPIs to be computed within CityLearn that you can do whatever you want, but then within this common exercise, we do have certain goals, which are the portfolio tracking as a primary metric and thermal comfort as a second primary metric, and then a bunch of other evaluations below. So you cannot do any KPI, or you can do any KPI, but for the reason of this exercise, we're interested in those specific ones. Gregor, back to you.
And we have three of them, or three metrics. The first two, as shown by Ava, or yeah, I presume it's Ava showing. The first one is, how close is your portfolio tracking the mean, and is it biased upward or biased downward? The second one, the coefficient of variation of RMSE, is basically quantifying how close you are tracking the profile. The daily profile, there's not a whole lot. So this actually will give you a similar performance, but on time-changing profiles. The CVRMSE gives you more insight into whether or not you are able to track the shape of that target profile. And then we have to, of course, have a thermal comfort. If you scroll down a little bit, you have a thermal comfort bounds that we want you to track the exceedance. How many times are you above or below your set points, and sum that up as a total exceedance. And Hussein contributed a really good idea, and that's the notion of fairness, in which we want to make sure that it's not the same 5 out of 25 buildings that do the majority of work. So we want to make sure that the burden is fairly distributed. So thanks to Hussein for this idea. So make sure that if you're asking a lot of this portfolio, which we are, right? As you can clearly see from the differences in target and baseline profiles, that it's fairly distributed, and you want to avoid, burdening a small number of select homes.
And Gregor, this metric, this one is not defined yet, so we haven't figured out the compute yet. So that's what we're doing in these times after the soft launch, to actually make it comparable. Yeah.
And maybe Hussein and I could put some thoughts together on that and add that. Important is that you will see as a secondary metric the cost changes in percent, right? We're asking, how much more or less does it cost to operate the buildings given a price profile, and that's just an effect of your strategies. It's not the focus of your strategies. And I see Bori has raised their hand. Carbon emissions, would be metrics that we're interested in. Change in site total energy consumption, that basically looks at the distribution of how individual homes are consuming more or less to achieve that. And then peak demand, I think we're coming to the end. Peak demand. Oh no, then we have all the grid metrics. They're all spelled out. Maybe I should stop here and hand over to, there was a question from Borui. Do you mind telling us your question? No, it seems like we're
Catherine.
Sorry,
No,
I have no question. Sorry.
Oh, you did have a question. Okay, thank you, Bori. Yeah, Catherine, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this I uploaded that's directly taking from the Word doc and put it in here so that everything was all in one place.
Perfect.
And that if you make edits to it, just send it my way because I can update it as we need to. One thing I will say is already the carbon emissions, we didn't update those documents or even check them to see if they were like still making sense for the local grid intensity for Vermont and Texas. So I'm not even sure if those are relevant for this project right now or like up to date, but that's the kind of thing we can double check and either remove that KPI or update the CSV accordingly. But yeah, if you have anything you want to add, like a calculation for fairness, just send it my way and I can update it on the GitHub.
Perfect. Yeah. And maybe Hussein, you have some time next week for us to get together to mull over some ideas. How does that sound?
Sure. Yeah. Next week is midterm defense week, so I will have to dig deep into my availability. But I guess if we look for something in your afternoon, it should be okay.
Yeah, just send me a maybe 2 or 3 30-minute slots, and I think we can make some good progress if that's okay.
Perfect.
Thanks,
I'll do that.
thanks, Hussein. Yeah, I think we're in good shape when it comes to the primary KPIs, right? Those, the NMBE, the CVRMSE, and the thermal comfort one. The others, in particular, the grid metrics, we have inherited from a Common Exercise 2 in Annex 82. Those worked well. They are really grid-focused metrics, and if you read them, you'll see what they're trying to do. Now, interesting enough, this load factor is a load factor on a per building basis. The peak to valley ratio is on a per building basis, and everything is on a data. The data is hourly, but the focus is a daily focus, right? You have a daily target profile to track. In this case, it's a target value, it's a continuous value. And so what you get is, for each of the portfolios, is for the application months, right, which is September and February, I believe, right? You get for each building 30 days in that month. And it makes sense to think about the distributions. And we will also hopefully show how the different strategies differ in, for example, the peak to valley ratio or the ramping requested per building. So I think we can take a little bit more time next time to look at these metrics and answer questions about those. Those are important. They describe how these buildings are changing their own personal behavior. And then there is the ability for us to compute this at the portfolio level, right? What is the load factor of the portfolio? The target load factor for this target profile is 1, right? Every day it's load profile. There's no load factor. It's the ideal, and that's the origin of this particular target profile. That's the best the aggregator can sell to a generator. Say, hey, I have a load that's perfectly constant, and therefore give me a good price, right? That was the origin of the idea. Okay, we have another question, please. Mina. You're muted, Mina.
You're muted.
Do you hear me right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I have just a question about the setting and about this multi-building and how the communication between these building is. Do we have any assumption about what kind of information is allowed to communicate, or no, we don't have any assumption right now about that?
Eva can go to the diagram. I provided a diagram in this one. Yeah. So Mina, do you see this diagram in front of you?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's basically this top level just says track a daily portfolio level reference load profile purchased by an aggregator. And then we present in as A, B, C, D. We present 4 different ways of accomplishing this, portfolio control. And those are A, centralized control, B, decentralized control, C is hierarchical distributed control, and D is non-hierarchical distributed control. Those definitions are taken from the reference linked on the lower left of that image. There was a paper written in the context of Annex 82 in which we looked at the various ways, Mina, in which these buildings can either talk to each other or not talk to each other to achieve that goal. And those are all fair game. And what we do in this diagram is show for each of those 4 options, one example and a paper that points to that. But you can make your assumptions and you can design your approach. I expect, Mina, that your approach falls into one of those 4 options, right? Unless you argue against that. But we try to develop a taxonomy in that Annex 82 paper that kind of looks at the many ways in which we can orchestrate assets together. But what you do, so the examples are just that, examples. Don't look to them and say, oh, I've got to do MPC, or I've got to do I have to use the flexibility function, of course. Shahab and Henrik Matze will say, of course you have to use it because it's wonderful. But there are many ways, right? There's this optimal load shaping. There is, of course, the multi-agent reinforcement learning listed here. Come up with something and then see if I think there is of interest, of course, to all of us is the view of implementation. What would it take to actually do this in reality, right? Because this whole annex, Mina, is about how can we go beyond the academic studies to productizing flexibility, making it something we can sell and implement. And so generally the market likes simple solutions, right? Complexity is good for your PhD, but typically not in the market. So those are the considerations you can make and say, is necessarily the most elaborate and the most highly performing controller the best, or is it possible that something a little simpler, rule-based, does it come close to that? Those are good questions, and we are actually.
And I will say, Gregor, also, and to the others, you don't actually have to do only one solution. You can do as many as you want. There's no restriction because the environment is so standardized. Once you know what you're doing, you can easily update, change, and make a different approach, and then just show that as well. And I think that would be great. To generate more solutions. So no need to fall in love with one approach, one solution, but explore more, I think. And there's so many viewpoints afterwards to explore. The more better.
So apparently monogamy is not required. Okay. So and then I think it makes a lot of sense. I love this remark because it basically allows you to be somewhat untethered to one approach and say, hey, I looked at a number of things and this is how they perform. And that's interesting to us in Torino, right? We can say, you, Mina, looked at 2 or 3 and this is more practical, but this is maybe achieving better performance, and that would be really interesting.
Well, there's just so many ways to assess that if you have more solutions, maybe they fall on a larger spectrum than if you only have very few solutions.
The goal is for us, of course, to publish something about this at some point, to generate data. And Hichem Yora will be very interested in using some of the scripts he developed in Annex 82 to generate a kind of a unified view of the landscape of control strategies. So that's why we want to have these uniformly defined KPIs so we can actually compare. That is also a lesson learned. Lesson we learned in Annex 82 is that we had quite a diversity in how people reported their results and had the apples and oranges problem in the end.
And with that in mind also is that, again, because the environment is standardized, if you develop, let's say, a known metric, because for some reason it's very interesting, you can share it back to everybody and everybody can immediately apply that metric if it applies to their controller in that sense. So that's a way to give back and to share with the community also.
Perfect. Yeah. What do you anticipate, Zoltan, as a pathway to introduce or includes such a metric in our little zoo of metrics?
Sorry, what's the question?
The question is how would that metric be introduced formally in that?
Oh, I think, well, let's say Mina has a new metric that they think is very useful, then it can be either shared via the code or I mean pushed back to the code, and then everybody can just use the exact same computing procedure, which would make it standardized.
But I expect those ideas, if indeed Mina comes up with a new metric, that those could be discussed in our meetings.
I think once there's consensus that we want to evaluate, use this for everybody, then it's easy enough to make it centrally possible to compute it for all examples rather than everybody trying to address it in their own environment. That's what I meant.
Perfect. Wonderful. Yeah, so maybe at this point we are ready to conclude this meeting and maybe address a few remaining questions if there are any. Sabrina, do you have anything you want to contribute?
No, I think we've said mostly everything. So
can I just ask you in a qualitative sense, Sabrina, you have already used this challenge and generated some results without showing those. What did you learn?
It's a complex task.
It's a complex task. It's not easy, right?
No, I think as I mentioned, the target, the results I've been sharing in the previous meeting had the problem with the PV generation. So I think that is one that made me think about something about this problem. If we want to manage battery, how impactful is an advanced controller with battery if there is no enough PV, if there is enough that covers your demand, and I think it's a good starting point to understand the data that you have before you design your controller. Yeah.
To really take a good look at the data that you have.
Yes, that's my suggestion. Yeah.
And on this topic, the PV sizing of those homes, how do we size them now?
It has been so the Vermont data set was already good enough. I think the generation was what I would expect for like a cold climate in January. For the Texas, we have setting a fixed nominal power for every building, and then the PV generated will still depends on the roof area of every building. And now is more in line with, at least the demand of the building for cooling. So it's should cover part of the demand, and that can generate less issue. And it makes also more sense to have more PV in Texas on June and August than in Vermont in January.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
oh, yes, it does.
Yeah. I think that's the only issue we had before, but it's fixed. New challenge for everyone to find the best controller.
And I hope everyone in the audience understands that the problem set, the buildings are as they are. You're not allowed to change those. You're just allowed to design the controllers. If there's any feedback on problems with the data set, of course, we want to hear from you, and we'll fix that for everyone. Good. Zoltan, do you have any parting words? Anything else that you're thinking of right now?
No, but I think what we should do, you and I, is formulate an email to everybody to say, here's the data set. Eva or Catherine, somebody can send me the GitHub link. I put the Slack link in there, but we can also send that again. And that way, those who couldn't participate today, we can share. And maybe the recording we can send around or a link to it.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll do that. Is it okay if we work on that next week? Because I have to grade all day today. So
yeah. No, it's not urgent. Thanks, Catherine.
Good. Well, then cordial thanks to everyone who worked so hard to get us to this point. It's been a
Yes.
true pleasure to have such an exciting team of researchers and so invested in this. And well, looking forward to the results that are coming out of it. And yeah, with that, thank you very much and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.